Hello YouTube, metaloidmonkey here, and hola from España, y today I am in Spain. I'm going to be in Spain for the next 4 weeks now. I've already been here for about 2 weeks, and it's kind of weird because I haven't been commentating because I had exit finals when I first wanted to get these out, and then I had, and now I'm in Spain, and I just didn't want to like scare the host family. I'm staying with a family in Spain. I didn't want to scare them by like loudly speaking in English, so yeah, we'll see how this goes, and hopefully I can get through it without being interrupted, but, you know, it's whatever. These are the games that I played a long time ago versus Mighty Icy, and I want to keep doing uploads, but I don't know how the situation's going to be. I just feel like right now I have the time, because everything around the house is pretty quiet, and I'll see how everything else goes, and I don't want it to sound too boring or anything, but it's hard to like motivate yourself commentating some of these games, and I have a bunch of 2s games, and when I get in, starting on July 1st, probably July 2nd actually, because I'm getting back July 1st, I'm probably going to try to do daily uploads for like a week or two, just kind of to give you guys a whole, because I have a bunch of games like just saved up that I haven't uploaded. Combination of things. I'm also going to post those 3 Tourney games that I never got around to. I'm going to do 3 separate games for the first round, and then I'm just going to do 1 upload for the next round because we had 1 game and then a really short game after that, so it's not worth putting those into separate videos. And so in this game, you see I'm going for barracks first, and I'm going for reactor second. Can't really build too many hogs when you go barracks first because I like to go more infantry than I do hogs, so if you see, I'm just blocking my base there so the chopper couldn't ram me. Actually generally play this map a bit differently now. But either way, it's the same sort of deal. So I'd been chatting with Marco before I ended up playing this stuff, and Marco was like, "Oh yeah, just go tanks." And I'm like, I don't know, I like, cause Marco and I play a little differently in that I play more like BB, and I prefer the Hogs and Hornet comp to tanks and tanks in general. And it just it really also depends on like map setup and stuff. So I'm not sure whether he's going to try to push my base or not, so I'm just going to keep these, I'm keeping these flamers back, but I'm just going to go run them up to the supply elevator, and then probably to the reactor. I'm going to take those, and oh god. Okay, so basically let me just explain what just happened. Mike did the whole commentary, and it just stopped right there, and I'm just really annoyed right now, because I don't know if I have it in me to stick it out and commentate this again because it's time and I'm hungry and I'm in Spain, and yeah, it's like it's getting pretty late. I still have to go eat, go tapas and beer, and yeah. Okay, anyways, so I'll keep commentating this. I'm going to try to do an abbreviated version of what I already had said. I'm going to try to quickly get through everything, say everything that I need to say instead of dabbling on, and I'll probably end this commentary a bit early because I know exactly what I want to say now that I've said everything. And we'll see how that goes. Okay, so basically my main mistakes this game are that I'm pushing up to his supply elevator with way too many flamers. As I see that, I pull back a bit. I really only need like 3. I have flashbang. Why am I going up there with all those? I had 6 up there, I think. I'm coming back to take my reactor. I don't need all those going to the reactor. I only need two flashbang flamers, so I should pull all my flamers back to my main base now and go take my supply elevator back. I see that he has a hull, I see that he has a turret, I am totally in the right position I want to be in. I should be going and grabbing the other reactor as well, since I have him back at his base while I'm grabbing the supply elevators, and I should be trying to tech straight into Oxide, Tank, Flamers, and Gauss Hogs. That'll put me in a position to end this game in the early game, and then he's gonna have this real tough time because he'd have to make Wraiths or he'd have to make Banshees to do anything about what I'm doing, and even, I mean, Wraith Banshee's the only thing he can try to counter this. However, I don't do that. So now what's gonna happen here is I wasn't sure how I didn't have enough flamers over there because I was all out of position, so I wasn't able to take him out of the. I wasn't sure, I didn't have enough flamers to take him out of the supply elevator right away. I looked over the teleporter, that's because I was thinking, oh, I should go take that reactor, but I don't have any flamers over there because I'm just playing poorly. He's taking his supply elevator back from me, and I have to go take my supply elevator back right now so we can swap hooks. I don't know why he did that. It looked like it was recording the entire time. Okay, whatever. Anyways. Upgrading pads, always upgrading pads as early as possible is always a good thing. I went for more infantry this game instead of more hogs. The thing with more hogs is that you get to put more pressure on their base, force them to recall, give yourself a better chance to control the hooks, and then you don't need all the flamers. What I like to do is I used to like to go more flamers, and by going more flamers, I just kill them at the hook. Like whether I debomb at their hook or at their base, it doesn't matter. Oh, don't debomb at your hook ever, because then he just runs out, recalls, takes his own hook back, and then wow, that's such a good debomb, right? No. So yeah, there we go. Now I'm finally taking the reactor, but he's already taken me out of that reactor, so now I can't get my Gauss, and I can't get Oxide Tank, or I can't get Wingman or Cancer Shell. And I think it's finally time that I go Fortress. Generally, you want to be going Fortress about the time that you're going for your second tech, so that you can put up your VD or air pad up right away. However, I'm not doing that this game, of course. I check and see that he has a pad blown up. I go back in there and check a bit later. I see that he's going double hull. He's got the reactor, which means he's probably going to get beam rifle. He's going to get Tech 2 on his Hunters, Spirit Bond, that is. And when he does that, then it's going to be difficult to kill him with hogs and flamers, because he counters me with both of his units, obviously in different numbers. Things happen a little differently because I have numbers right now, but he'll slowly catch up to that. I see that I'm pushing on his supply elevator with my hogs, trying to get him in position and take him out of the reactor, but he's got a bunch of, as you'll see in a moment, he's got a bunch of jackals camped over there. Now, usually when I see double hull, I always go for Hornets, because I prefer, when you go Hornets, you force them out of double hull. They can't keep going double hull into your Hornets, or they have nothing to kill your Hornets. They have to switch at some point, at which point you gain back a lead on them. And also, when the Hornets, it's cheaper, you get to take your expansion in with your Gauss, and so you have double base Gauss, you have single base Hornets, and you have your Flamers to also put pressure on the hooks at the same time. So you push on his base, he comes back to his base, you take the hooks, then you're in this great position of being able to juggle him all game. Your army will actually be able to beat his army at some point in a head-on confrontation, although usually you're going to be counterattacking because your building damage is so great. Now, in this case, I have a VD, and I'm putting up a reactor. By putting up the reactor, I tend to get Cancer Shell, Gauss, and maybe Oxide Tank, depending on how this plays out. So with him holding half the hooks and me holding half the hooks and him on this double production, I don't really like that. I can still do it, but with Hornets, it'd be easier for me. Marco likes tanks, but the thing is, I'm not used to going tanks, so I messed this up here. If it wasn't already obvious, I'm actually not playing too poorly. I was in a position to win this game. I could have put myself in a position to end this much earlier if I actually played like I should have. Like, seeing this now, it's really weird to watch how bad I did this game. But I have these flamers just sitting here doing nothing, but then again, I do have to kill that army somehow. I'm taking Cancer Shell. Usually you just build more tanks when they're attacking you, but the point is that I think I'm going to end up having to cryo or debomb, and I want to have the money to do that. Cancer Shell only cost me 200, so that's 300 money that I can spend elsewhere, as long as I don't lose. As long as I don't keep losing tanks, I should be all set. The one, I'd have about 2 Hornets out right now, which still wouldn't do anything, so obviously, regardless of whether I went tanks or Hornets here, I'd be holding this attack off with my Hogs and my Flamers. This game's a bit laggy, I know, I apologize for that, can't do anything about that, that was my college connection at the time. I do actually think I sped this game up a little bit at some point, and I think it's sped up the entire way, honestly, just because. I wanted to cut down a bit on the length and the lag so that it didn't look too terrible. But with your Hogs, you target down either one, honestly, and then the other one is just going to do the rest of the work. But now I'm at the point where my Flamers beat that, so that's good. I think I did lose that tank. Okay. And so now I should just push on the reactor, and then I can tech power turret, and then I'd be all set. Obviously, I should, because I don't end up doing that, because I end up down-teching my reactor, because I feel like I need money to build a tank, which is not good. Usually when you go Hornets, you'd stop at Wingman, that's why I'm so used to doing that. So that was the main mistakes, and we were talking about this after the game. Really nice guy, really great player. And he was saying, yeah, he was worried that I was going to get power turret, and then he'd be in a pickle. But obviously, until I get power turret, then there's that moment in the game where his army, I feel like, still beats my army. Because Tech 2 Hunters are really good, and Beam Rifle Jackals are really good. So, yeah, by going Hornets, you force them to switch out of double hull while they're into Banshees or Wraiths at that point, and now then, at which point your Gauss and any Flamers you still have will easily roll through their army, because you can afford to build all those while expanding when you're going for Hornets, because they're significantly cheaper than tanks. I have a lot of weak Hogs here, I have a lot of weak hogs, and I do want to throw heal, but I do not have the money. I should go clear the expansion base around now. I think that's what I do end up doing. But I don't have enough units to fight him directly, and with tanks you can't really counterattack very effectively. So at this point I feel like I've lost this game. I'm clearing a base, but I know that I just don't have what I need. I need Hornets, because, I mean, well, I need Hornets because they didn't go power turret. If I went power turret, I'd still be fine. But no, that was just me. I never go tanks. I'm so used to going for Hornets in this sort of setup. But obviously I figured I'd try it out, and would I do it again? I don't know. Maybe. I still like the Hornet spell. I just think it works out better. I like the position it puts me in, and even if it doesn't end up like winning me the game right away, then I can still switch into tanks later if I need to. And so that's going to be the end of this game. He's going to end up pushing up on my base another time, and I'm just not going to have what it takes to defend it because I don't have like cryo anymore, and he's going to have all these hunters and some flamers, and I can't even defend the hook just from squads without his chieftain. So if I can't beat his army, even if my hogs were over there, I might be able to take that with my hogs. Probably not still, because I have so many weak hogs. Yeah, that's too much for my army, and he doesn't have his chieftain in it, so I don't win that. I can't win that. It's just not happening. So that's gonna be. I'm gonna stop commentating this game right now because I think this game has been taken care of entirely. I think I've explained everything. Double haul, you want air pads. Sometimes I'll even drop my barracks and put up a second air pad, or put the air pad up on my expansion. Generally, I'll go for reserves on my expansion base, and the Hornets are just the much better option. You can't go double barracks into this because if they have double jackals and they're chieftain, then they will beat your double barracks. It works. It just doesn't work out. It will work out if you have a tech lead on him, which sometimes you'll run into that case where you get to like either napalm or oxide before he gets to his beam rifle, and at that point you will be able to take hook control and you'll be able to push and you should be able to win that. But that generally doesn't. That situation generally does not arise. And so when that happens that way, then you've probably won the game whether you went double barracks or not. If you went into that sort of situation, it's like when you're playing on chasms. If you can get double barracks on your station before he's even like got all his pads upgraded or can even go for citadel, then the game's over because he's nothing he can do about that. Once again, that situation generally won't happen. Generally, they'll have a turret or two, and then they have citadel when you try to show up, and they have a summit already, and then you're pushed. You're pushed off. There's nothing you can do about that. And then you just kind of threw the game away by that. Well, you don't actually throw the game away. You still have infantry units, but you have to transition out of it right away because you can't stay. So I debomb, and I have Oxide, but he just has too many units for me to fight here. Sure, I may be able to kill that, but he's still stacking units at his base in case he was worried about a counterattack. Now, if I had Hornets, I could kill both sets of his armies, whether the one at his base or at here, and if I just counterattacked his base and I had an expansion up already, which I would if I had Hornets, then I'd win this game and this would be over. I'd kill through a turret, strip his base, kill his base, whichever I wanted to do. I could just have my way with him at that point. There was nothing he could do. In the last commentary, I talked about cryo candy glitching or candy glitching in general. I will, as you see there, I did do a little bit of candy glitching, but I will generally never cryo candy glitch just because I disagree with it. I do, yeah, I candy glitch occasionally, but I mean I was just kind of desperate at this point. But I'm not winning. I don't have any production. I don't have anything that kills his army. I mean, even building flamers isn't enough because he's double hull and he's got jackals. So, I mean, single barracks is not going to be the double hull. It's just, it doesn't work. You need other units to kill their units. And when they go double hull, the thing is, the reason by switching into Hornets from going double hull, when they go double hull and you switch into Hornets, that's because they're putting all their effort into controlling these hooks, so you just decide, oh, hey, I'm going to build an army that's going to kill your army and your base, and just give up on the hooks at that point. You can still have some flamers on the floor, tech 2 flamers, really good at controlling hooks. You don't have to send that many. I know one flamer for a fact will take out a reactor that's never been touched before. Like, you know, untouched reactor, it'll kill all the rebels, napalm adherent, even if you don't flashbang the sniper. And for some reason, I actually noticed recently, not recently, quite a while ago actually, if you put a flamer in a reactor or a hook in general, sometimes they'll throw their flashbangs, kind of like regular Marines throw grenades, if they're in range to attack or something. I don't know why sometimes it does it, and maybe I just don't notice it the other times. But after smacking me around with his brood enough times, because I mean I'm playing like crap, I'm trying to play like someone I'm not, and that's the main thing. He decides to be merciful, and he plays an Anders mirror versus me. I'm like, okay, I can do these, and if I can't do these, then obviously something's wrong with me. Since then, I've kind of forgotten how to play my Anders mirrors and units versus units, or the UNSC in general, just because I just haven't done it in so long. I feel actually more comfortable versus Covenant right now. I don't know why. It just, for some reason, you learn playing versus Covenant and it just kind of sticks with you. But when you play versus UNSC, you kind of lose it. Use it or lose it, pretty much. Okay, so now into the last commentary, I talked this commentary that I already did. I talked completely about the combat circle of Perth Outskirts and how Marco says it's a combat circle, but it really isn't, because it doesn't end up that way, because you don't go back into Marines when you're both on tanks. You don't. There's no reason to. The early game, it's a bit of a juggling act until you get to your late game units. Ultimate late game composition is going to be Gremlin Hornet, but the way you get there is going to be different depending on which tech path you choose. I feel that Marines into Flamer into Hornet is the best option to do that. If you try going tanks and they're smart, they're going to beat you. Because when you go tanks, you can't afford to build all your Gremlins or Marines or Flamer or whatever you need and upgrade pads. So you're going to fall behind in units, and then you fall behind in units on this map, and it's so unforgiving. You're just going to lose straight up. So basically, should you ever see tanks on this map? No. If the other person goes for tanks and you're going for Hornets, then you're just going to beat them, and there's nothing they can do, because they can't afford to build all their Gremlins, and your Hornets already beat tanks. So especially when all the Gremlins are on the floor, then you get this Gremlin lead. You kill their tank. Well, whenever you have Hornets and Gremlins versus tanks and Gremlins, you always go for the tanks. And when you have tanks and Gremlins versus Hornets and Gremlins, you go for the Gremlins. No. Yes, you go for the Gremlins. So basically, if you're building tanks, you try to kill Gremlins, and if you're building Hornets, you try to kill tanks. If you are both going Gremlin Hornet, you Hornets to the Hornets, Gremlins to the Gremlins. Sometimes you can try to kill their Gremlins and mix in Hogs, but I mean Gremlins still beat Hogs, so that's not the greatest idea until you. Oh yeah, okay. And I also talked about how late game Hornets, when you have Gremlin Hornet versus Gremlin Hornet, when you get to Tech 3, it generally turns into Goss Hornet versus Goss Hornet. Because Gremlins do not keep up. Goss kills air, Gremlins don't. So basically you get your Hornet lead by using Goss Hogs, and then your Hornet lead will kill their Gremlins, and then, yeah. And tank turns into just more tanks and more Gremlins. And after like reserves and after you're both on like triple bases and everything's teched up and everything, and you still haven't made any progress, maybe a Cobra or something, but you're gonna actually what's gonna happen is you're gonna try to tech into Hawks at some point, but usually you don't get the chance to because of the way your money is sitting. Because you can't afford to always to keep your triple pump of tanks going, or double with reserves. Your triple pump essentially of tanks going and tech into Hawks. But if you get the money and both of you are playing a Turtles sort of game, then that's usually a good idea. Obviously map dependent. I mean, on release, if you get the triple, then if you get the triple on release, then you can hold it. Then it's over. And usually on release, late game will turn into people starring up their own tanks, although I don't know why I do know why it only turns into that, because neither of you can take the triple successfully, and then neither of you can really push too effectively, and so starring up on these is obviously the way to go. So one mistake I make in this game here is that I actually upgraded the pads on the outside of my main base, which is where he would hit if he came over, so I shouldn't be doing that. This game I do a kind of a pony build. I texture into RPG, but if he went straight into tanks, then he'd actually be okay to deal with this, because I did spend that money on the RPG and everything, and tanks will beat the Marines, and he would be in a position to beat them if he went for tanks off the station, firebase. Firebase, that's the word. So generally you want to upgrade the pads between your expansion and your main base on that safe side, so it's a bit safer, and that'll put you in the position so that if he kills pads, he's only killing non-upgraded pads, which is obviously what you want him to kill if he's going to kill anything in the first place. Generally, you stop at upgrading 2 pads in the early game, because then you can't upgrade more pads without sacrificing production at that point. So generally, you get 2 pads, and then you're kind of stuck with that for a while until you get to your station in the late game scenario, where every time you get the chance to, without cutting production, you try to upgrade another pad. If you cut in production to do that, then you're going to run into a problem, because you're not going to be able to afford everything. And when you fall behind in units, you lose this map. This map, it's hard to teach this map. I'll tell you basically how the game should be played out, how I would do it, but I find that I actually really got good at this map after only learning how to play all the other maps first. It's just kind of something that goes with the territory. So basically, you have this early game scenario. I found the best way to start off is by mixing in a few Marines, because if you mix in a few Marines, then your Hogs and Marines, or Gremlins and Marines, are going to beat their Hogs and Hornets, or Hogs and, I mean, if they try to go into tanks right away, then you just jump into Hornets. If they try to go into tanks, you can build like 1 Spartan first, and then ditch your barracks and get an air pad, because your Hornets and Gremlins will beat his tanks and Gremlins. There's no 2 ways about that. He's going to have to cut production of Gremlins to build tanks, and your Hornets are already better. So that's why you cannot go straight into tanks. Even versus Goss Hogs will have enough damage to, if someone goes straight into Goss and you're going straight into tanks, they can still beat you with their Goss, because your tanks aren't just, you're not going to afford everything, and it's not going to be enough to kill the Goss Hogs. So that's why you can't even just go straight into, you can't even go straight into tanks versus Goss. So, I mean, your 2 options versus when they go Goss are gonna be Marines, and Marines. No. What was the option? I mean, I always just do Marines. Oh, yeah, if you went straight into Gremlins, yeah, you can only go to tanks if you didn't build any Hogs. But, I mean, the Gremlins and Marines is just the easiest way to counter the Goss, so that's what I always end up doing. Yeah, so they have, okay, so mainly you start, Hogs and Marines will beat Hogs and Flamers, Gremlins and Flamers will beat Gremlins and Marines. Just take my word for it. I explained it, okay, I'll explain it actually. So it's Hogs will influence the infantry fight, but Gremlins won't, because Hogs do more damage to the infantry as opposed to Gremlins. So basically, you're essentially fighting Marines versus Flamers, and obviously Flamers win in that case. But when you have it's just Hogs, then they're going to be shooting each other's units down, and the Flamers will die faster than the Marines, and the Marines are better at killing Hogs. So, yeah, with the Gremlins, basically everything's going to be stunned already, so it's like, whatever. Okay, so you have this position. You both start building some Marines and some Gremlins. What do you do? Do you go into double barracks? Do you go for a vehicle depot? Do you go for an air pad? You go for an air pad. You start off by mixing in Flamers and Gremlins, so now you're going to have this infantry lead. If they go straight into tanks, then they're stupid because they have to cut production. You're going to be going into station at some point if you both end up mirroring. So you go to station, after you still have 2 upgraded pads, and you're generally going to go for your air pad 4th or 5th, but usually you went for the air pad 4th, only if you have the extra money to do it. Then you probably should have just had it going up by deleting your barracks and going for a 3rd on your expo, because usually you don't go station if you need the Hornets that quickly. So you just keep with your progression. If you have this infantry lead with enough flamethrowers, then you can actually steal his hook with them, and then, I mean, if he goes tanks, just push on him, because he can't afford to keep building everything. Your Flamers will take over, and you'll be able to get your. He might get 1 tank, but you can mix Spartan, but your Hornets will. You might have to pull back at some point, but your Hornets will be able to kill the tank. Although he shouldn't get the tank faster than you get your Hornets, so your Hornets will be the tanks. And Hornets, Flamers, Gremlin beats Tank, Hog, Marine. And just like Hornets, Flamers, Gremlins will beat Tank, Gremlin, Marine, or Tank, Gremlin, Flamer, because Hornets are better than tanks, and Hornets kill everything that he has got, and he doesn't kill what you've got. Tanks don't kill Hornets very well, especially when there's all these Gremlins on the floor. Making sure the commentary is still working. Please be working. It looks like it's working. Oh my gosh, please be working. Okay, so then we have okay, so you have Gremlin, Hornet, Flamer, and the only way they can keep up with you at this point is to keep with Gremlin, Hornet, Flamer. If they try going double barracks, just get Napalm and Heron on your Flamers and just keep massing them up with your Hornets and maybe mix in Hogs if you, or mixing Gremlins, depending on which one you really need. You probably can just get away with keeping Gremlins and just keeping them kind of out of the fight and kiting with them a bit because Napalm and Heron is so devastating. And if he's going double barracks, then he can't afford to be double pumping Hogs or Gremlins as well, which means that he would have to build a single pump of Flamers, a single pump of Marines, in order to stop you from killing all of his Marines with just your single pump of Flamers, because he has to match you with Flamers. Which means that your main base units are just going to kill his, and your Hornets will do work too to kill his Flamers. It's basically, you're going to run into the situation of Hog Flamer versus, Gremlin Flamer versus Hog Marine, or just Marines, and that doesn't work for him. Ever. So now you have this tech path of these Hornets, and you're both on these Gremlins Hornets. You want to keep upgrading pads, get into Tech 3. When you get to Tech 3, Gauss Hornet. Or switch into tanks if you can when you get Tech 3. A lot of times I will switch into Tech 3 when I get to... I will switch into tanks when I get to a Tech 3, but the problem with that is that if you do try to switch into tanks when you get Tech 3, it's just like if you went tanks all along and then you went Tech 3 and they'll push on you when you're teching, and you won't be able to keep building your Hornets and you won't have any tanks yet. So you've got to do it if you're pushing, while you're pushing, or if you've got the production, like if you get like a fortress and then you can throw a vehicle depot up after that, but you don't want to swap your air pad out right away, because you'll lose in the process. And that's the main consideration there. I think that covers it, because if they try to go tanks, they won't be able to hold you off. And if they do go tanks and try to turtle, then you can just push into it and kill them when they're trying to go Tech 3. Because they're never going to have any units, and even if they're going for an early Tech 3, they cut Gremlin production, you have too many Gremlins for them, and you beat them. So basically, few Marines into Flamers, maybe a Spartan or so if they try to go for early stuff, depending on what they're doing. But always keep building Gremlins. Do not cut your Gremlins. Marco cut Gremlins in one video, I was cringing. It worked out for him, but that's only because he got lucky, because he tried going straight into tanks, and if his opponent just switched into Hornets instead of going for the double barracks, he would have lost that straight up. There's nothing he would have been able to do. So that's how this map works out. It's because you don't have very much money and you have to spam as many units as possible, so Hornets are definitely the better choice. What else? I do know. Then there's also the case of the triple base, only if you can afford it without cutting production. Generally, I would take my triple instead of going fortress on either of my bases, because it's 3 spots for 500 as opposed to 2 for 400. Sometimes I can't afford to take that because I can't risk losing it, and I don't know if I'd be able to hold it. If you're not sure if you can hold it, because if you both have Hornets on the floor, you're going to have a hard time holding a triple if you're still in the Gremlin stage, because the Hornets will circle the base quickly enough, and the Hornets will not kill them quickly enough. So you'd have to go fortress and keep spamming your ass on. And then once you get to the Gauss stage, then you should be able to hold the base once you have a few engagements or so. And then triple base Gauss, yay! I think Gauss Hornet's still wins this in this map. Even though the map's small, Gremlin's not going to be able to do enough, because Hornets will kill the Gremlins and then Gauss will kill the Hornets.
Local units.
Yeah, that's how that works. Okay, so that's enough about Anders Mirrors and Perth Outskirts. If you guys ever want, I can keep going into more detail on those, but I think I really covered this, because I mean, in the early game, it's all about adjusting to what your opponent's doing. But the safest way I found is just to start off with a few Marines, because if they don't do anything to counter those Marines, then you're gonna pull ahead with the Marines. And if they ditch their barracks at some point to build like an air pad of reactor or a vehicle depot, then you just adjust to them, and so you're totally in the right position. So basically, keep your barracks, go station, then build your real units. Hornets definitely over tanks. But if you really want to go tanks, you can try. But if the other person goes hornets and you go tanks, then you're gonna lose. Because you won't be able to keep up your production and push off their attacks. They're just gonna have too many units for you. But I mean, hey, you know what? Not everyone's the greatest with like micro positioning, so it depends. Oh, I don't know if I said it in this video because I said it in the last commentary. I think when you have gremlins, if you're building hornets and gremlins, then you want to target down their tanks or their hornets if they're building hornets. And when you're building tanks and gremlins, you want to target down their gremlins. Yeah, that's the way that works. As it of course, you know, because you're assuming you're fighting tanks and you're assuming that you're fighting their tanks and gremlins or their hornets and gremlins with your tanks and gremlins or hornets and gremlins, and so that's basically what you want to be targeting. Obviously, if you have hornets and gremlins and you're targeting down their hornets and gremlins, then your hornets are targeting their hornets and your gremlins are targeting their gremlins. Sometimes you can target their gremlins with your hornets. But then you'd be trying to mix in hogs to help you gain back the air lead that you lost, and the problem with that is that gremlins still beat hogs, so you're in this weird predicament of it's like seems like an attractive option, but it doesn't quite work too well until you get to Gauss. Because Grenadier is not nearly as good at killing air to gaining air lead or killing gremlins in air as Gauss is. Okay, so this is Andrew's first brute game, obviously on Perth Outskirts. I saw he went Temple second, he went over to my expansion. I was going to click with Barracks third in the expansion, but obviously he was going to kill the base anyway, so I didn't bother. I could go back and I could go debomb him and kill him, and here I decide that I'm just going to put up a Barracks first, and I'm just going to go and kill his, not kill his, take his, take the reactor, get Grenadier, or even Gauss. That hog takes a bit of damage on the way out. I was expecting him to come back and recall. Obviously, he came just push on my base. But right now, I really should just go back, kill this pad, then go back and debomb him off my main base, kill him, and then I have 2 bases and he's got 1, and I can mix in some Spartans to deal with the early rates, and then we're fine. I probably shouldn't have gone Barracks first on the Expo just because now I don't have money to debomb. Oh, I do, but I'd be delaying everything, so I should have gone supply pad, and then just gone back and debombed now, gone Barracks second or third on the Expo. The rates would have been a little bit of an issue for a little bit, but still, like, would have been able to keep him at bay by keeping him in defense because he's got no eco. Like, now's when I should be going back and debombing. I don't end up doing that this game. This rate is just in, like, Jesus positioning, and it's keeping a lot of my hogs down. I don't know how many more common... Oh, yeah. I didn't talk about this last one. Okay, so I'm going to be I get back from Spain on July 1st, I'm doing a summer session abroad, so just for fun. And so, I mean, it's really great here, and I really do suggest that you guys all check out Spain sometime. I know Marco's going to Spain at some point this summer, but it's later, so yeah. Anyways, when I get back on July 1st, probably starting on July 2nd, I'm going to try to do some daily uploads for you guys. My next video is going to be a meta video, Anders Arbiter versus Cutter Arbiter on Tourney Moraine. Anders Arbiter is really good on that map. Cutter Arbiter can also compete. The main thing is that Cutter should be going hogs on that map. Because if honestly on that map, if your opponent goes hogs and you don't go hogs, then you're just going to lose. Plain and simple. Even if you try like the VD 5th, because then they push, then they push over with their Arbiter and they stop your VD 5th. And now they have hogs to keep pressure on your Arbiter main base and juggle them back and forth. And sure, you can be building tanks on the hook, but you really should have just gone hogs in the first place, and then you wouldn't be in this stupid predicament, because then you'd have the hook. Then you'd have the hook and you'd have the same counter offense, so you'd be ahead. So why would you ever want to not do that? Obviously, the Anders is going to get to this point where they can get to Grenadier, and sometimes I'll go quick Grenadier on that map depending on the setup. Sometimes I won't. But at one point you go back, you clear an Expo, and then you push again with Grenadier and your Arbiter, and then you go back again and push with Gauss and your Arbiter each time, trying to do massive amounts of damage, mainly to the Cutter base, because keeping down an Arbiter, when you're playing as Arbiter, keeping down an Arbiter doesn't really matter, because whether he has money or not, it's not like, oh, he's going to get vampires, because you're not building Banshees. you're just not. I mean, sometimes, maybe on that map, honestly, I don't know, maybe I'll think about that. But on Tourney Moraine, I find most of the time double summit into solo rage is a really good idea. Um, uh, yeah. So with that map, I'll be tripling. No, I don't think my Arbiter would have enough money to go for Banshees and afford everything. You can have your Arbiter put a Suicide Grunt in that like reactor there to get Tech 2, which is usually a good idea. But it doesn't always happen that way based on positioning, but it should. It's 1,000 resources that are being saved. That's pretty much your Tech 2 upgrades right there. And so the Hogs and the Arbiter are definitely going to be in a much better position than the tanks and Arbiter on that map because you can get your expand. You should be able to get your expansions up successfully and then push in everything. I really should have healed my Hogs in this game right here, or debombed or anything basically. And this is like really close. Like yeah, it was we were like I don't know, am I gonna get it? Am I gonna get it? And if you watch here, some of my Hogs being stupid. Let's see. Look, it's targeting the. What am I targeting? I'm targeting the base, and I think it stops targeting the base. I don't know exactly what happens. But this one's a really dumb hog. I probably should have sat on the other side of the base and tried dodging the turret for all I know. Yeah, this hog decides that it's going to target the Wraith and not target the base. I'm not actually clicking on the Wraith, and he's going to get the shield, and I'm not going to be able to win, so I resign here. Which was really annoying. I was so lucky. But I had so many opportunities to win these games. I was just nervous. Alright, I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys next time with that meta video. Alright, peace.